What is going on YouTube? Today we're kind of diving into some career topics and talking about what it takes to go from junior to senior developer, what it takes to basically continue your studies as a developer fresh out of college, and try to give your career some guidance going forward. Or at least this is me giving myself career guidance, and I'm just taking y'all along for the journey. So buckle up and let's talk about what T-shaped developers are and what E-shaped developers are. So we have an article from our homie Matt here, The Myth of the T-shaped Developer. Now, where I got the inspiration to make this video was I actually attended a developer conference in Charlotte, North Carolina called Open Source 101. It was a conference just about, getting started, contributing to open source projects, and how to join the open source community kind of thing. I found it very entertaining. So if you're on the East Coast and you're looking for a developer conference to meet some new people, definitely check that out. However, when we go from the college lifestyle, having assignments and classes, to the professional workplace, I don't know about everyone that's watching this video, but for me, I am a full stack developer, an Azure full stack developer, and the amount of things you just have to learn on the fly outside of college is insane. There are a bunch of developer tools out there that, were made to where you don't have to do so much theory as more just learning a tool and applying it to the problem you're on right now. What I'm kind of talking about is the cloud. In the cloud, there's so many solutions. You have your web apps, so you don't really have to know Apache too much. You can use services like Service Bus or messaging services, so you don't really have to know how to make a pub-sub model on a theoretical level. You can just subscribe to these pub-sub services, and all that underneath the logic will be handed for you. And just all the front-end frameworks. There's we're going to get into it, but there's a lot of things that developers coming out of college need to know. And this idea of a T-shaped developer we're going to dive into it, but it's mostly about the breadth of knowledge versus the depth of knowledge moving forward. So I think it's exciting, and hopefully this just branches out your mind of all the things that are possible to know if you're struggling with just planning on learning topics going forward. So let's dive into this guy. Exploring generalization and specialization in developer careers. Recently, a young developer I respected expressed a somewhat common concern. In essence, their concern was that they were finding themselves doing a little bit of everything and not specializing enough. Yes, something that developers are often going to, deal with. They were specifically concerned that nobody wanted to hire them without a key specialization. They also mentioned the idea of a T-shaped developer who had a wide breadth of experience but a specific area that they were deeply skilled in. And we have a picture here of some of the things that, this person was talking about. You can see here, it goes all the way from, can I zoom in? We got Agile, Angular architecture, communication, database design, DevOps, JavaScript, leadership. Dang, this guy has no management. Oh man, we love that. But he's a god at Node, React, Redux, REST, SOAP, SQL testing, threading, all the stuff. As you can see, there's a lot of things to learn here, and stuff that isn't going to, be learned overnight. This stuff takes time to learn. There's even stuff I see that just isn't even on here. Like I was talking about the cloud. You could even say, like, getting good at the tools you use, like VS Code, like Vim. I would say getting good at your development tools should also probably somewhat be on here. If you're lightning quick with VS Code, I respect you. That's awesome. So, yeah, keep in mind that this was a new developer who had recently graduated from a boot camp, and specializing early on can be both hard and limiting. This is also a common concern for new developers, and so in this article I'll explore the pros and cons of generalizing, specializing, so-called being a T-shaped developer, as well in introducing the term cone-shaped, which I believe is a more accurate picture of a development career. The cone-shaped can also be known as E-shaped. We just love, acronyms in the development community. So generalization means having enough skill at a wide array of things. As a generalist, you are competent enough to weigh thoughts on issues over a technology stack, work with a wide variety of projects, and jump in and help out wherever needed. This means that you're able to do a lot to help a team and are more likely to take features from beginning to end. Yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense. When you think about the typical developer experience, it's kind of in 2-3 week cycles. Imagine a team of 5 developers coming together, looking at a backlog of things that need to get done, and just picking and deciding who's going to do what. When you have that breadth of knowledge, you're more likely to look at all the tickets and be like, oh, I can do that. I can do each one of these if you want me to. And so you can, take on many tickets. This flexibility in turn tends to result in more things coming your way. You may get bugs assigned to you because people trust you, will be able to identify the broken area, and will have the familiarity needed to fix things in those areas. Additionally, your ability to get involved quickly in code bases makes you a leading candidate when the business needs to move someone onto a project to help out. This increases your value to the organization, but it can also be frustrating and disruptive to you. So, based on like what I'm just hearing here, there was times on projects where, you're developing and then something crazy happens, something unexpected. And I always have a saying that, computers don't lie. When there's an error, there is an error. You can kind of think of something that works 90% of the time, and then a 10% of the time, just something breaks. Guys, that's not magic. Something is broken. And having a breadth of knowledge kind of allows you to look under the hood and have an idea of how everything, you're not, specific, you're not an expert at anything, but you kind of know the general gist of how the entire tech stack works, and you can go exploring in areas other than just, the front end, or just the back end, or just the SQL database, and uncover what that issue was really coming from, where it was really coming from. So, very fun. The downside of generalizing is that you tend not to know the newest practices and patterns of a particular technology layer, and are more likely to write suboptimal code just because you don't know the best way of doing something or have enough experience to avoid common pitfalls. Yeah, I can say on my project right now that I'm at, we have a God front-end developer, and I will be doing things that come logically to me, and then that front-end developer will be like, yo, Jake, just so you know, there's like a library right here that comes with, the Angular core framework, and everything that you're doing right now can be done in this one method. And you're like, oh my gosh. So yes, definitely something that happens. Additionally, specialists may look down on your technical abilities because they are seeing you contribute in technical stacks where you are not an expert, and they might judge you against special standards. This just sounds like, a bad working experience. This perception of your abilities may cause the organization as a whole to respect you less, as they should, or pay you less than your specialized peers. Yeah, that just sounds like a bad organization to be a part of. If anything, this might be if you're working at like AWS or Microsoft, where they want you to be specific in an area. If you're working at a huge company, odds are they want you just to know one thing and be really good at that one thing. And if you're not, then you're off, buddy. So when you're on a smaller team, usually having more knowledge is looked good on. Specialization offers a chance to really explore and become an expert in certain technology areas. Subsets of larger frameworks, front-end or back-end code, database layers, communication logic, etc. are all technical areas where people can specialize. Additionally, people can specialize in larger organizations on specific projects or specific types of projects, though this is not frequently viewed explicitly as a form of specialization. So here talking about, being a god at the how a product works versus just how technology works, I think is what was being talked about there. And I would definitely agree, being good at the business logic is great for your company. Hopefully they pay you a lot to, stay on board. But those, if you're specializing in the business, then, you know, when you pivot to another company or pivot in the future, that's not going to carry over. It's not going to scale with your career as much. And here's just a picture of kind of specializing and having, you know, some knowledge in some areas, but really focused in on database design. Specialists tend to get more complicated changes and more complicated bugs. They're more likely to be labeled as experts because their role requires expert level knowledge in an area. This expert level skill set results in rarer skill sets and can command higher pay, as few people in the job market have the needed experience for the senior level roles. That's not to say that specialists must be senior developers. Junior developers can also specialize in certain areas and get forced into this by organizational needs. This can help junior developers gain skill and comfort more quickly, but limit their usefulness to the larger organization or team. Specialization has its downsides, however. As a specialist, you're much more dependent on the specific technology. If the technology declines in popularity or suddenly becomes unsupported for a major platform, you are likely to be suddenly forced to compete with other specialists in that area who are looking to adapt their careers to account for the sudden change. This is especially true for anyone that is doing front-end development. You know, I have a saying that, you know, there's Vue, there's React, there's Angular, there's so many, there's Svelte, I think is what it's called. Yeah, but point being, you know, there's so many of these frameworks, and when one dies, you have to pivot quickly. So for any front-end developer watching this video, definitely take the time to get a very high understanding of JavaScript. I was talking to a mentor of mine, and like, Jake, when it comes to the front end stuff, just always look to the lower level. Yes, library specific knowledge is great, and you want to have the general gist of it. But once you have the general gist, instead of getting more specific, just look at JavaScript. Get really comfortable with JavaScript and how JavaScript works. Get comfortable with how the just-in-time compiler, the V8 engine works. You know, just getting lower with the code, that always helps you when stuff like this happens, because, guys, our careers last a lifetime, and anyone that's been working in the tech field for more than 10 years knows that things have changed. Things have really changed. I mean, people were using Microsoft Silverlight. People were using Django. People were using, like, jQuery back in the day. And things change. So keep that in mind. Alternatively, if you stick out when others move on, you can win some very lucrative roles. This is true for anyone that's working in Cobalt still. But bear in mind, this comes increasingly difficult to find jobs that need your skill set over time, and you will lose respect in the eyes of other developers as you're just seen associated with an ancient technology. Nah, dude. Nah. Anyone that's working with Cobalt today, they are gods in Jake's mind. Specialists also miss opportunities in organizations because their skills are so narrowly focused. It can be hard to get promoted or move to another project if there isn't another person around with similar skills who can pick up your work. This means that specialists don't see as much variety and don't get to move on to some of the newer and more fun projects organizations might create. That said, being extremely skilled in a specific area can be a lot of fun for a simple reason. It's fun being really good at something. Yeah, it's good being able to go to bed at night knowing that you're a god at whatever you're doing. That's awesome. So now we're going to be pivoting. We're going to be pivoting from that isolated stuff to more of a generalist, from specialty to generalist. So a T-shaped developer is a term you'll hear thrown around. This simply refers to someone who has a breadth of a generalist and the depth of a specialist in a specific area. T-shaped developers tend to rise out, and here we have, like, you know, the classic example with that node in the middle. Good stuff. T-shaped developers tend to rise out of a generalist, diving deeper into a specific area. Yeah. Most developers will become T-shaped by the time they hit senior developer, but I do not feel like that is the end state for most developers. Being T-shaped is not a bad idea, but I don't think it truly is reflective of a modern development career. And so here's that comb-shaped career. Instead, I'd argue that as developers age and gain more experience with emerging technologies, they become closer to something more comb-shaped. That is to say, they have the breadth of a generalist and multiple specializations that they've gravitated to throughout their career. Additionally, the base of the comb is thicker or deeper than the traditional depth of a generalist. And here's like, that end goal state. As you can see here, this guy's pretty comfortable with the Angular stuff, with the React stuff, with the JavaScript, web UI, but also, good at testing, good at architecture, good at functional programming. Yeah, this would be something that, you would hopefully strive towards at the end of the day. Can't complain with this person's skill set if that's what they're looking at. All of this is to say that developers continue to develop and grow and encounter new libraries and technologies. They amass a lot of areas of specialization and a greater degree of comfort in areas that they are still generalist in. Yeah. Makes sense. As you become more and more comb-shaped, you will feel a greater degree of familiarity when working with newer technologies, be able to apply new things quickly, and feel a greater sense of general wisdom for software development. There's no guarantee that the time you become comb-shaped you will have any hair left. Such are the ironies of life. Yeah, this stuff takes time. You can't do this stuff overnight. You can't do it overnight. It's a good goal to have. There's things that you will naturally gravitate towards that you're interested in, and you kind of just got to follow with it. I think that's a great thing to say. So here we are. We're going to talk about directing your own path, and here we have a little antidote from the author. So next time someone suggests that you should specialize more or that you should become a generalist, take it into consideration, but don't fret that it's an irreversible decision. Your career is your own, and if you're in development, you're quite likely to move back and forth between times of specialization and times of generalization. If it is helpful to anyone, here are the ebbs and flows of my journey. So this guy started as a JavaScript generalist, moved to .NET, fixing bugs, pivoted to WPF specialization. Sweet, leveraged that T-shape to become a senior developer. So bam, let's go, buddy, making that dough. Gained an additional specialization in web services, generalized more into ASP.NET web development, got into Silverlight, got into Angular, specialized more in Angular, changed jobs to become a .NET generalist, and yeah, now they're technical debt management. So that is the article, ladies and gentlemen, of the generalist and the specialization guy. I think that both tracks are doable. Both tracks have their merits, and I think that's what this article was talking about. Like, it's good to be a specialist, and it's also good to be a generalist. You just kind of got to find what you want to gravitate towards. And when it comes to, if we can pull up this chart, if anyone has the time on their hands, I would make something like this in Excel, make a little chart of just all the different topics, and then have some personal projects that you're thinking of in your head that would level up these bars. Maybe it means making a website in Golang. Maybe it means deploying something to a Docker container and publishing it in the cloud. Maybe it involves, pen testing and performing a reverse shell. I can tell you that over the past couple weeks, I've definitely taken the time to make something like this in my personal time, and now I have like kind of a track record of where I want to go and what I want to do, so that I can, have a visual representation in my mind of what I feel like, where I feel like I'm at, if that makes sense. So I definitely recommend doing the same. I would say also on this chart that's kind of missing is networking. No one respects networking, but it's so useful for when you're making web apps. knowing how to connect all your services together. It's the glue that brings it all together. So don't forget networking as well on this guy. I'm sure in the comments below, feel free to type in things that you think are left out on this list. But guys, this video is getting a little long now, and I'm sure you're tired of hearing me ramble. This was, again, just a video talking about career stuff, specialization versus generalization. How do y'all feel about it? Are y'all going to be specializing? Or are y'all going to be becoming more generalists? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching. Peace.